Hello, my friends. Today I'm going to show you something that the Lord has allowed me to see and taught me about over the last 4 years. So whenever it did come, I knew exactly what I was looking at. And before I even get into these things that I'm going to show, understand that God said He will change His name. He will have a new name when He returns. So does the world rename everything. There's nothing new under the sun, but the world calls it something different. So we went from God being however the Jews would pronounce His name, to it being Jesus Christ that the Christians would say. It's the same God. He just called it something different. Likewise, when He returns, He promises to have a new name that only we will learn as well. God changes the name. Why would He do this? Why would He change His own name? Why did He make sure that He was called Jesus Christ whenever He came into the world? It's to show us something. And it's to teach us about Mystery Babylon for a generation that would come a long time after He walked the earth, 2,000 years almost. We know Mystery Babylon is not specifically named, and I don't think He ever told the prophets or His apostles, I don't think He ever told them that the name was going to be America. But He explained everything so that those who were wise would be able to put the scriptures together and apply it just like He told us to do. And then we who are in that generation where America becomes Mystery Babylon, we would understand. That's why He calls those in the end. There will be those who understand, who will shine like the stars in the heaven. That's speaking of our deliverance, our rapture, we're going up. We shine because we understand by applying the scriptures. We don't just regurgitate the scriptures like the Pharisees do, for instance. So exactly as God looked at Jews prior to His coming of Christ is exactly how He looks at Christians after His coming, where He gave Himself the name Christ. From all of those things, you can apply that scripture to everything else that has ever been in the world. Well, let's take a trip back to 1920s, 1930s Germany. And let's look and compare 2010 to 2020 America. And just see for yourself that if a Jew was teleported from 1935 into America today, they would believe that Germans must have won the war, but for some reason they changed their name. He would say, well, that's Germany, but they're called America. Why did they change their name to America? Well, those are Jews, but now they're called Christians. How did that happen? That's what somebody from 1935 would say today if you brought them and put them in front of a television screen to watch the news. You look at the Hitler Youth Program, for instance. This was an indoctrination from birth to adulthood in Nazi philosophy. You know what they used to do? They used to all stand in crowds and raise their right hand. Now this is very important because what does Christ tell us the mark of the beast will look like? They will have a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And that's coming. He's telling you if anybody has something on their hand that they give power to, that's a mark of the beast. And they raise their hands in power as though it has authority. And they don't raise their left hand, they raise their right hand. They're giving authority to whatever idol they have put on that hand, whether it looks like something or it doesn't. They're giving the power to that arm. This was in 1930s Germany, Hitler Youth Program. They're all raising their right hand and salute, Sieg Heil, Heil Hitler. Let's take a look at Black Lives Matter right now. Again, all with their right hands held up, proclaiming Black Lives Matter. A Jew from 1935 would say, why are they talking about Black Lives Matter? Why aren't they saying Aryan race? They're doing the same exact thing. And this isn't just specific to blacks. This is more whites than blacks in this movement. It shows you that skin color has nothing to do with it. It all has everything to do with the ideology of the particular time. In the 30s, that ideology was called the Aryan ideology. Today, it's called the Black Lives Matter ideology. And it has nothing to do with black lives or white lives. That's just the way they can separate the flesh. It has everything to do with giving power to that. By this mark they are doing right now, I can tell you that these are all Antichrist. Doesn't matter what color they are all part of the Antichrist philosophy, because what are you actually saying when you say Black Lives Matter? Well, if you say white lives matter, if you say black lives matter, if you say blue lives matter, if you say green lives matter, you're elevating that power ahead of everything else. And what do authoritarians do? They elevate a power, they become part of it, and by deceit and by force and by violence, they take that power, because the majority will not stand up. Very few people in a majority will actually stand up to something such as this. And you see it all over America. The white Christian crowd, conservatives of all colors, most people all are standing down because they don't have that authoritarian nature in them. They don't want to take something by violence and force. They believe that justice will play out. And it's because of that by deceit, the minority eventually takes the power from the majority. And they do it by force, and then they immediately start to persecute the majority and put them to death so that their numbers rise. But just from the sign, this power salute in the air with the white hand, the white power people, the people in the 60s and 50s, the KKK, they used to do this kind of thing too, except they would say white power. Well, why is everybody holding their hand up into the air saying something of power? That's the mark of the beast. Doesn't have to be that physical mark on her. Right now it's a spiritual mark. Soon it will come a physical mark. But that's exactly what these people are doing in the streets in America and now over the whole Western civilization. This symbols that I have on my screen right now, obviously that was for the Hitler Youth and swastikas. That was the Nazi symbol. Usually black and white clad together, especially the Hitler Youth and the little lightning bolt. Satan falls like lightning from heaven. Now let's look at the sign for Black Lives Matter. A black and white raised fist. Take a look at the lightning bolt. Take a look at the fist. All it is a lightning bolt turned into a fist, and calling it a fist instead of a lightning bolt. It's something that they call something different, but it's the same exact thing. Now, the schools in Hitler's Germany, they were indoctrinated from the time they went to school until the time they graduated to be part of that system of the Aryan race. They were taught their race was better. They were taught the sciences and the things that they would need to get through to the objectives in the world. But they weren't really taught about history all that much, because all the history they were taught was altered into believing Germany was a victim. Same exact thing happens today in the schools. An education program is written by the institution of Ministry of Education, which determines the learning progress of each subject in all the stages of formal education. Educational programs help people decide if they are going to be a teacher or not. These education programs that the teachers deliver to their students, it's the same thing as was the Hitler Youth in Nazi Germany. The schools in America are set up by the government with the government curriculum, and all of it is filled with tolerance toward wickedness, because that's the same ideal that the Hitler Youth had. All of these government programs that we see enter the school, Common Core, whatever you want to call it, there's tons of them. They're all taught to the students as an indoctrination camp. And the Germans, they were big on physical fitness. What are we big on? Oh, we're big on making sure our children are vaccinated, or else they can't even enter school in most situations. We are taking something physical and making it mandatory, the same as Germany did for their physical fitness. And if you were not able to be physically fit, they would remove you, and you would eventually go into the Holocaust, the same as the Jews. They killed many of their own people too. Well, what do you think is going to happen with the vaccinations? We force these mandatory health vaccinations. Whenever you go to a clinic, they ask you all kinds of questions that they have no reason to ask you. And believe me, anyone that has a child will understand this. Think about the questions that they ask you about your kids and about your family and about your life, which pertains nothing to health. It's the same thing that we do with vaccines. It's the same thing that Nazi Germany did with their sporting teams. They had all kind of sporting events, and all these events were geared toward war. Well, what is all the teaching today geared towards? It's geared towards the left ideology of acceptance and tolerance of wicked. It's all the left ideology that's taught in schools. I don't even know if you'll find a school anymore in the whole country that teaches a conservative-based education other than a private school. And there ain't many of those left either. It's the same way for college, the same way it is for high school, the same way it is from elementary school. From the time you enter into preschool and go all the way up through your college education, you're taught the socialist, leftist philosophy. And the government has made sure that that is the philosophy that everybody is taught. And then, of course, if you come against that, look at what they did on the campuses 2 years ago. They shut people down. They, through violence and through force, stopped people from talking. That's the same thing Nazi Germany did. Now, the boycotting of business. This was on my phone right now, is what happened with the Jewish businesses and how they were boycotted. All people started to come against Jewish businesses. They would either boycott them and stop buying them, their products, and then eventually they shut them down, and eventually they put them to death. Well, what stage are we at in America? White TV anchor fired after racial comments. You see how many people on the news every day fired or stepped down or removed because of some kind of racial comment. And it's not even racial comments. It's conservative comments. The same thing that Germany did. If you're not the leftist socialist in the education system or in the work system, you are going to be fired, so you cannot work. You are going to be let go. You are going to be forced to resign. It's happening all over the country. The same kind of censorship of conservative ideology. It's exactly the same thing that the Jews went through in the 30s, a censorship of their way of life, of their history, of their pride, of everything that they had. It all went away. Same thing is happening today. And you see these books, the books even, and all these things online, Black Lives Matter, it's sold out. Again, all with their right hands up in the air. But we just had a conservative put a book out that Amazon took down. So all of the same thing. You can only get one side of the piece. You have very difficult time getting the other side of anything. And most people won't even search it out because they're so indoctrinated growing up that they don't even know how to think about something else other than the ideology that it's taught. And the only thing that they are taught is that conservative Christian white values are oppressive. That's why we have this, what do they call this? Systematic racial discrimination system. The whole system itself is racist. That's why they say that. Because they don't want you to know what the actual history is. And they don't teach it. And they want it censored and gone. It's the same thing that the Aryan race did in the 30s in Germany. They have their own little boycott things. Here's 7 companies you should renounce if you support Black Lives Matter. I mean, don't shop there. If you support this leftist, socialist, victimizing agenda, an authoritarian agenda, if you support that, you should not buy anything at these places because they support conservatives. 7 companies who have worked against Black Lives Matter. It's not the conservatives who do this kind of thing. The conservatives, who are free market, they desire wealth. The other side, they desire oppression and they desire submission. And because they take it by violence and force, the other side, who is not violent, who does not take things by force, they always stand down because they do not care about all of that oppression and having all that authority that the other side does. The same thing where they're boycotting conservative companies or companies that, I don't know, white companies probably, I don't even know anymore. They're doing it to everything. Everyone who does this is oppressing people because they cannot see what they themselves are doing. This is Confessions of Hitler Youth, recalling how the brown shirts came into power and how they, through violence and force, condemned their neighbors who were not like them. This is the same exact thing. They all participated, all raising their right hands. Today, we have these LGBT and minority communities. They're demanding higher sensitivity training. They're demanding that people take sensitivity training. And it's in every company you get hired for now, you must take sensitivity training. And all sensitivity training is pushing the left's oppression, victimization ideology. It has nothing to do with being sensitive. It has everything to do with the whole system that people were taught from elementary school all the way up, that white people are evil, that Christians are evil, that conservatives are evil. They continue it even in the workplaces, and that's why you see so many people taking to the streets. This is a brown shirt logo that Germany used on my phone right now. This is what the brown shirts did, who the brown shirts came in after the police force was changed and removed in Germany. Well, look at what we're doing right now. Minneapolis calling to defund the police. New York City, defund the police. Let's get rid of the police altogether. Did the same thing with the brown shirts in Germany. They became the Gestapo. They became the police. Their own ideology became the police so they could then oppress everyone else who came against them. It's happening right now in America. Turn your television on and watch all of the anger and outcry in police officers. And it's because these people hate the law because they are lawless and they want their own law. Take a look at this Black Lives Matter shirt again with the Black Power sign. It looks the same. Everything is the same about it. Look at the logo from the brown shirts. Look at the logo from today. This is how they are going to take their power. And people just continue to not be able to see it because they haven't even been taught history, first off. But they're so indoctrinated that even if they were taught history, unless they stand firm themselves, they will become a part of it the same as the brown shirts did. Censorship in Nazi Germany was extreme and strictly enforced by the government. Censorship in the United States involves suppression of speech or public communication. Look all over the country how they are suppressing speech. You can't even get on a forum anymore and write specific words. You get censored or you get your comment deleted if you write specific words. It's the same thing Germany did because they do not want you to see what actually happened. All over this country right now, it is being taken over exactly like Nazi Germany was taking over, and they're doing it as a wolf in sheep's clothing. They're saying, no, you guys are the Nazis, not us. It's all happening exactly the same way. The United States is preparing that Antichrist. The United States is preparing for that mark of the beast. The United States is preparing for Satan's kingdom before it comes. Just like I am preparing for God's kingdom before it comes. They're doing the same things we are, but in the total opposite way. This system of beast is so close, I tell you, so close. You're going to blink your eye and it's going to be there. Choose not this path. See it before it happens. Learn from what has already happened under the sun and apply it to today. And meet the Lord in the air instead of going through all of this that the world is going to experience in tribulations. God bless.